Opposites attract. I mean, I'm sure it works for a lot of people. For us, the similarity, like, so we just like
your peas in a pod.
Yeah, so
pretty much.
And we also have a system where if there is something which say I like and Gayatri dislikes, Gayatri has another option which I dislike, then we put both of them away and look for option C. More than the story, I think the way Vikram and Vedha will be portrayed on screen, this gives us another scope of doing that. Hi, I'm Pushkar.
I'm Gayatri.
We are here at Film Companions new studio to have a chat with Anupama about our show, Suzhal, the Vortex. And
please watch this and please subscribe to Film Companion.
Gayatri and Pushkar, so lovely to have you on Film Companion. First of all, congratulations on Suzhal. It really hooked me. It's very emotionally rich, very complex, very layered. There were some things that didn't pan out as satisfyingly as I wanted, but I will try not to make this a spoiler-filled conversation. I will try and keep us in safe territory. You said that it took 1 year to write, 2 years to shoot. So first I want to ask you about this writing process. You know, where did this story come from and how do two people write a world?
Actually, the story we started writing in 2014-15. So that time we were
as a series? As a film?
No, as a film. Huh. So I think very soon in the process we realized that this needs to be explored more. Like in a film you have to concentrate on your protagonist, antagonist, and probably like few other people. I mean, you don't have the space to explore the whole world and like the characters and all that. I mean, just because it's 2 hours and it's structured in a certain way. So we thought, okay, this is actually more suited for long form. So that time, none of the OTT platforms had come to India. So we just put it in a corner. We told, okay, the big boys will come, then we will pull it out.
That's amazing. You were writing a series when there was no streaming.
Actually, yeah, we had that initial idea because, I mean, we've been watching long form storytelling. I think Sopranos was the tipping point. Yeah. Then The Wire. So when we started seeing those, then we realized like this is a world which we would like to do. It wasn't just television, it wasn't just something which you see on a small screen, it was grand storytelling. So when this started happening, we thought like, hey, okay, finally we have something which we can explore in the long form as such. So when Amazon Prime Video approached us, we said, yes, we have something sitting in a folder in one of the computers. And
actually, I mean, the team was also immediately enthusiastic. So they told, okay, this is the first Tamil original series they're going to do.
So how? Like, do you write one scene and do you write another, or do you sit together and write?
Actually, it's kind of organic.
Yeah,
I mean, so we'll discuss something, then put it on paper, and then tear it up. What were we thinking last night?
No, who types?
So like we get an idea, we talk about it. Sometimes she types out a scene, sometimes I type out a scene.
And you're hovering, like the other person's hovering.
No, it won't be a hovering thing. So when say when Gayatri is typing, I might be trying to figure out something else. Okay. So as soon as that is on paper, then we both read it and then talk about it. I might do one round of correction and then she does another round of correction on it. So it keeps going back and forth, but no staring over the shoulder. It's not an it's an it apostrophe s. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, you spelled that wrong. Your most celebrated film, Vikram Vedha, is of course a twist on Vikram or Vedha. Suzhal also takes place against a religious ceremony. It's 9 days of this celebration of a goddess finally vanquishing a demon, and that plays very closely into the narrative. You know, it's bouncing between, and that whole religious ceremony takes on so many more meanings because of what's happening in the forefront. Tell me what keeps you going back as creators to these sort of mythical, spiritual scenarios?
So most of these myths, especially the local ones, they're all based off real people, who probably lived at some point of time. and they're all very close to our heart, you know, because we've been hearing those stories and hearing those stories. So somewhere the idea of, paralleling that myth to fiction, no, is something very exciting for us. It's not exactly nothing to do with religion as such, but the mythology marrying reality, you know, that space like really fascinates us.
And we have a lot of faith in the idea of faith. So it's not about religion as such. We are not somebody who's trying to say a religious point of view or spiritual point of view, but it is the fact that faith in anything adds like one sense of completion to most people in India. So there is faith in a superior power or something like that, which makes sense to a lot of people's life. So this background, having a religious festival over there, was that so different characters have different takes on their faith in it.
Yeah.
So that is something which we have tried to subtly include in the narrative. Irrespective of whether you're a believer or an agnostic or an atheist, you have faith in some idea. So that faith might not be a religious idea, but it will be, maybe it's communism, maybe it's in a worldview, or maybe it is in self-awareness, and we try to break that faith by saying like that is a conflict. So when faith breaks, what happens to that character is something which we try to explore. It is there in Vikram Vedha also, it is there over here also. Because that as a crutch for the human condition interests us a lot, that any kind of faith. And a lot of times our biggest conflicts in life are when something which we truly believe in deconstructs. So that idea I think we are taking through and using the mythology as the overreaching metaphor for the story.
You know, the other thing that's common between Vikram Vedha and this is, it's very interesting. There's that line in Vikram Vedha when Vikram says, I can look into a man's eyes and tell whether he's innocent or a criminal. And then the film shows us how he can't do that. And there is no way, and nobody's either all good or all bad. And even here, what I found really fascinating was how everybody, in some way or the other, has done something that's wrong, is guilty of something, has either just been hurtful or neglected somebody else, or of course done something heinous and criminal. So as creators, is moral ambiguity your sort of first working principle?
Yeah. That like really fascinates us, and that is actually as close to human as you can get, you know, in terms of storytelling and all that. So in life also, I mean, so there's nobody who's like fully this way or that way, so that moral ambiguity and what choices you make kind of define your character. So I mean, in our writing process also, so every character is, you know, we put them in a conflict situation and how they react. So the moral, the choices they make, no. So those are like things which really.
So one of the lines which has influenced us greatly is a social realistic line which says, "People lead lives of quiet desperation." So this kind of informs our choices on how we write characters. Sometimes the characters turn out to be a single note. That they have one purpose and they are trying to achieve a goal. There we consciously then try to break something or bring in the moral ambiguity over there so that the character's life becomes richer. Otherwise, what happens, generally cinema doesn't give us that much space, mainstream filmmaking, to do that with anybody other than your protagonist, antagonist, and maybe a couple of people around your main story engine. Here, the space is a lot more. So we could do it with these 4 characters around whom the story travels forward. Plus we could do it for a bunch of other characters. It might be one changeover, one morally ambiguous thing, but we could use that bit of painting in the details with this long form storytelling at least.
But that's actually what makes the series, that even the smaller characters like the sister-in-law, you know, has her own arc, has her own emotional sort of situation that she's grappling with. Tell me about creating characters who might not have the footage necessarily, but are still 3-dimensional. How do you do that?
We tried not to have characters just for the sake of it, as in like one family member or each character. I mean, say if you have you define them, then you give them a conflict and you break their definition. Then it kind of automatically adds depth to the character. So that sister-in-law character also, you kind of see her in a way. Then you break that. And then, suddenly she reacts to another thing. So
it's
that's
so difficult to say without without saying it.
I know.
But I think that's what takes us the time more than anything else. So we keep going back, reworking on the draft to make it leaner in terms of what the character has to achieve. What happens is when, we obviously add a lot of fluff onto our storytelling also, but we need these clear moments which we are defining as these are points at which the character turns. There's a plot, there's a story turn, but we are also equally keen on how the character turns and how do you place it. So you have to place that turn in a plot situation where the plot also turns, and how the character responds to that plot turn will define the character at that moment of time. So it's a back and forth, like where we have a plot idea.
While writing, one character develops a certain way. Then you go back to the first episode and try to see, okay, so you need to plan something so that it's believable.
Right.
Yeah.
Plus, give her or him like a different take, so then that comes as a reversal.
So there have been cases where like a couple of characters were just not breaking. I mean, like, why are they not reacting to the situation in the way we want? Because we felt like the characters had a life and how would they be reacting to this situation, but we just couldn't get them to a point where we needed the character to turn in a specific way. Then we realized that we needed to give that setup in the first episode. It was not going to happen in the 7th episode. So we went and rewrote
so you planted the seeds.
Because the character keeps getting defined as you go through the thing. No? So by the time you're in the later half of the series, even as you're writing,
you don't recognize the people.
Right.
You know, like the character can't react in a certain way, though you need it for the plot.
Yeah.
So we'll have to go back and restructure that character in the first episode or second episode, give them that one nuance which will then play out later kinds. So yeah, I mean, then you realize that damn, this character is now not working for that plot point. So
a lot of back and forth basically.
Then
the other thing that I think really aids the storytelling is the background music, which is again Sam CS who did the background music for Vikram Vedha. Talk to me about how you use music in your narrative and how do the two of you with him create these amazing scores?
Sam has been a blessing. Like actually before we started shooting, so he read the whole script and he started scoring. Like when we were doing pre-production work. So that for shooting also, that's like a huge help. So you put on a music for action sequences or even like montages and all. So right from your DOP to your actors to like everybody on set can feel the mood, feel the emotion. So they react in a certain pace and in a certain way, responding to the music. So then actually, we do that and then we edit and then again Sam works on, he'll keep, refining that whole thing. So
also, I think we have an understanding with Sam. So we don't give him references and say it should be like this piece of music, or because obviously his musical past and our musical past is very different. For us, everything would be about the rock music of the 90s. We can reference everything to the grunge movement. So that is our natural space in music, and we still listen to it now. But obviously Sam is not from that generation who grew up with Nirvana and Pearl Jam. So for us, communicating it in terms of like, this is what touches us and this is what we want to do, we realized early on that is not going to work. So it is not going to be about getting the right reference. with Sam, what we do now is we talk about specific moods, specific beats of what we are trying to achieve in that piece, and specific turns, musical turns. So even before shooting, we kind of say, take the theme. We would say it has to be in this kind of space, this mood, and all that.
What was your brief?
So one is the main theme. Okay. So grey was the idea over there for this also.
Yeah.
But we wanted elements of fire and darkness to go with the grey. So these are words which we would speak to him.
I think that bit of music, when we were giving the show Bible, we had that.
Yeah, he had got it.
So that Sam responds to emotion and like drama, no.
And he responds to abstract ideas also.
So you're saying dark, fire, grey, and he came up with that soundtrack?
Plus a whole bunch of other stuff. We'll talk about instruments, what kind of instruments we want, what we are imagining in our head would contribute to the thing. So then he came back with one instrument which is a kind of, it's called kumbu, which is that big horn kind of thing. So he just played us that sound and asked, is this working for you? So that plays a major part in this. Then we talk about progression. So even with BGM, unlike songs, we look at a certain progression, certain picking up in pace, or it could be every song doesn't need to end in a crescendo, it doesn't need to end in an high. You might need that high note somewhere in between. So we think of it almost like telling him a story over there. The song builds this way and it has to explode over here, and then you need a lighter moment. And actually, now that you ask, okay, Sam did all that with such abstract stuff.
No, but it's wonderful. It's really terrific work. And of course, his work in Vikram Vedha was also such a distinctive part of that film. Tell me, at what point did you decide that we will only be creators and writers, but we will give over the directorial reins to two other people?
Actually, that I think a lot of credit goes to Amazon. So we were, we've written like every single word till the end and all. So it was like our baby. So we had some other commitment. So then, so we told we'll do it later. Then actually people from Amazon creatives, so Aparna came down and told, see, the script is in good shape. Trust, get people you trust and get them to direct it. So that time it was like, no, we can't give our kids for adoption kind of thing. And then, but I think, post-merge we realized that is the best decision we made, because I think in this long format storytelling, you get more collaborators, it works better. And we've been really lucky with both our directors. So we really like their work. One is a national award winner and the other one, his film is like super acclaimed. So we like the way they treat people and emotion and how they see the world. So that kind of matched with our worldview also. So we brought in, and it has been both with Brahma and Anucharan, it has been a great working experience. I
think the fact that we could sit back, all credit goes to our directors. In the second meeting with them, I think that one, okay, I think it will be in safe hands. That feeling happened because both of them read through the script and they asked very pointed questions on why is this happening and what is the connection between this and that. And Brahma was also asking very particular questions about the whole festival portion because he's experienced a lot in his earlier works. He's been to a bunch of them. But this was new for both of them, this particular festival. So when we started talking like that, we realized the wavelengths would match. Otherwise, it would have been really tough. If we are fighting a battle on like, no, that is not the way we are looking at the drama, and you don't want to push it too hard because now you've got them in as directors. But here, I think during shoot and all, Brahma and Anu used to call up and say, I'm changing the dialogue for this because it's flowing better. And we say fine. But they were checking back with us on everything. It's
and actually, like we had long conversations. So we were all on the same page. And yeah, I think that's the way forward also. We should look at
we generally like collaborating with our co-creators, like our DOP, our editor, Sam for music. We feel it's a very enriching part of the whole filmmaking process. We are not, though we studied film school and all that, we are not from that auteur theory at all. We
it is, I mean, it's not like painting or writing poetry.
It's not at all.
It is a very collaborative thing.
Yeah.
And everybody who feels an ownership towards the project, no? I mean, they will bring in their best. So, and it's finally, it's for our credit, I mean, seriously.
And I think our main job is to make everybody feel that they own this. And if that happens, I think any contribution from anybody there is always for the betterment of the project. We might agree with it, not agree with it, but it'll always be a discussion, not a fight.
Yeah.
So
you're not combative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I know there's probably not a lot you can tell me about the Hindi Vikram Vedha, right? I'm assuming it's still off limits.
Yeah.
Okay. But I have to ask, and please feel free to say no. Is there a big change for the Hindi audience, or are you mostly sticking to the same narrative?
Again, we can't answer that in too much detail. We have strict orders from our producers. Don't talk about that yet. We will start doing that very soon.
We will meet again. I know that. I know that. But
the soul of the film is pretty much the same. In terms of the plot, also pretty much the same. But it's a different film in spite of those being the same. It's a completely different film because of certain factors. So for us, it was like doing a whole new film. Though we knew the beats and all that, it was, okay, we are discovering something new in this. So, so it will be an interesting look for you, for somebody who has seen the Tamil version, vis-a-vis seeing this. Yes, I mean, it'll happen soon.
I have to ask, is that why you said yes? You know, because I'll tell you, so there's this actress, Numi Rapace. She was just on the jury in Cannes with Deepika. She came to fame doing The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the Swedish film, right? Right. And then, of course, David Fincher remade it with Rooney Mara, but apparently she was offered the role and she said no. So I interviewed her in Cannes many years ago and I said, why would you say no? This is David Fincher, right? And she said, because repetition would be cynical. And I've never forgotten that line, that repetition would be cynical. So I have to ask, as storytellers, you know, for you, was that the satisfaction of telling this story again because it's not the same story maybe?
No, the story is not different.
But then what's the satisfaction? As these incredibly exciting creators, why do it again?
We thought long and hard about it before we agreed to...
You weren't just seduced by Hrithik and Sen.
No, actually all that, all that happened later. Before even an actor was on board. The idea to remake the film was being floated around and they wanted us on board for that. And so it was a tough decision because all our life we have refused every remake. I mean, and it happens. Every month there'll be one, there's this Korean film to remake, there's this one Hindi film to remake and a Malayalam film to remake in Tamil. Those calls keep happening and even from our first film we have always refused that, saying like, no, we are going to do only original content. With this, I think the call was because we thought there was another take on the characters. More than the story, I think the way Vikram and Vedha will be portrayed on screen, this gives us another scope of doing that, of pitching the characters in a different way.
So you could innovate within the lines.
Yeah, because we didn't want to tamper with the guardrails of the story.
Yeah.
But then
which is what made it so magical in the first place, right?
I think, but also the kick is in how can we take the same thing and do something completely different? Yeah. Especially since we have always refused to do it, I thought maybe we should try that. Let's see what can we do. Yeah, and
it's our own material also, so that in that way.
I think one big thing was it was going to be remade for sure. The fear is also that what if it ends up being a bad remake?
Sure.
So somewhere then it might hurt us at that point. We didn't want to take that risk. Like, damn, we should have just done it. Why did we give it away, guys? So that was there. So that similar, I think it is also when we got in Brahma and Anu, it was the same thought which went into our head. We should not have regrets later that we should have just directed it. And so before we fixed on Brahma and Anu, the conversations which happened were very precious for us. Because that kind of reaffirmed this idea that, okay, even in this, and this is a difficult collaboration generally within the OTT space, to have a showrunner, creator, plus directors.
It's new to the whole industry. I mean,
Absolutely.
Especially in Tamil, it's always writer-director. I mean, most of them are writer-directors.
Yeah.
And both our directors are also writers. I mean, they've been writer-directors. So,
and we've heard about the big fights which have happened in Hindi shows between the showrunner and the director, walkouts and stuff like that. So all those horror stories also we had heard. So, but I think with long form storytelling, it is a medium which is completely conducive to this.
Yeah.
Even having two directors, though the rest of our crew, like our DOP, art director and all, went crazy. Even the actors were like, first half of the day Brahma would be directing and second half of the day Anu would be directing. So they had to like suddenly switch. I mean, like, okay, I was listening to this guy say and now I have to listen to this guy say. Our DOP, I think, lost a lot of hair during the process also. But what happens is between them, so Brahma was tying up the knots and Anucharan had to first 4 episodes.
And Anu did the last one.
And Anu had to untie the knots of the story.
Yeah.
So there was always this back and forth between them about like, okay, so this is what I've done. Sometimes they would be on each other's sets to see how the scene was playing out before they did their take on it. And it was all, scheduling was all based on locations and actors, and so we couldn't schedule it completely like, okay, let's finish the first 4 episodes and then do 5 to 8. So just seeing that collaboration between them, to structure it right, that was a big learning experience for us.
And I think, like future also we are looking at that space actually. I mean, we'll write a showrun and then we get directors. I think more the merrier for 8 episodes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have to ask you before I let you go, how does this work? Okay, because my husband is also in the movies. I'm of course not in the movies, I'm a film critic, but I always tell him that if we had to work together, we would have split up a long time ago. I'm like, our marriage lasts because we don't work together. You two have been together since college, 1996, I believe. Yeah. And you say that, same friends, watching the same content, listening to the same music. How do you guys do it?
We literally grew up together, so it is like.
I think that was the key. I mean, since first year of college, we have been together. So our life experiences at this point are now pretty much identical. So that I think helps. I mean, we would have ended up doing all the same things at that point of time since we were together. So our aesthetics kind of built in the same way. So it leads to very little conflict.
Like this opposites attract. I mean, I'm sure it works for a lot of people. For us, the similarity, so we just like
your peas in a pod.
Yeah, so
pretty much.
And we also have a system where if there is something which say I like and Gayatri dislikes, Gayatri has another option which I dislike, then we put both of them away and look for option C rather than fighting about
each other to know what because we respect. I mean, we realize
don't you ever just get bored of each other's company?
Actually, no. I mean, the best thing we end up doing is having a drink and watching something on TV after a day's work, and we are completely happy doing that day in and day out. So
no, actually, I think only Suzhal, like we travel separately. As in IFA, he couldn't make it. I mean, so I think after like whatever, like some 20
I've
years.
been on a flight after like somewhat 20 years alone. Like first time traveling alone in a flight without Gayatri there.
I'm nervous.
No, on the flight I was going, this feels a little weird. Sitting alone in a flight.
That's so wonderful though. That is really wonderful. So I have to end by asking you, is there a season 2? Can Sakurai perhaps attack another case?
Yes, we are working on
Yes?
that.
That's so great. That's so great.
We just about started writing it, so it's now the journey starts on that.
Nice. I love it. I love it. I want to see more. Thank you so much, and can't wait to talk to you about Vikram Vedha.
Very soon. Thank you for having us, and congratulations on your new office.
Thank you for inaugurating. It's our first interview here.
Super. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks,